Welcome to Poultry on the Grill. So when we hear the word poultry, obviously we think of chickens, but there's also quail, duck, geese, turkeys, all members of the poultry family, and we'll be looking at several of those today. But first, I do want to talk about chicken. Chicken is probably the most common food item you'll find on menus in people's homes and coming off the grill. Why is that? Well, it's accessible. You can pretty much find it anywhere. It's very affordable, and it's relatively easy to cook. The other relatively easy thing about it is it's relatively easy to break down a whole chicken. And so I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to show you how easy it is to take a whole bird like this and break it down into its respective parts. And you can find that you'll save yourself a lot of money at the grocery store by having this knowledge, being able to break down the chicken and utilize the different parts of the chicken. So I'm going to start by taking off the wing tips here, and just knowing where the joints are is very helpful. It enables you to cut right through that cartilage. Then I'm going to take off the breasts. First, I'm going to make an incision at the bottom of both legs because I want to keep the leg skin with the legs and the breast skin with the breast. Then I'm going to come down the middle of the, what they call the keel, this cartilage plate. That's going to take me right to the wishbone. The wishbone is going to naturally turn my knife downward and take me right through that joint right there. Then I'm going to go back and do the same on the other side, through that joint, and then I turn, and going backwards, just using the tip of my knife, take those breasts right off of the rib cage. Now, with these breasts, I can then take the joint off with the wing. I can throw these in my freezer, and after a couple of weeks or so, I'll probably have maybe a dozen chicken wings that I can fire up for the football game on Sunday. Simply toss them in some flour, fry them up, or bake them, put some hot sauce on them. So then I have 2 boneless chicken breasts. Say I don't like skin. Very easy. Just take the skin off, save the skin. I have boneless, skinless chicken breasts. Next, I'm going to look at the legs. So there's a little spot in the bottom of this guy right here called the oyster. It's my favorite part of the chicken. I want to make sure I capture that. So I'm going to go in at an angle, get around that oyster. I'm going to press down on the carcass with my knife to hold it in place, and I'm going to pop that leg joint just like that. Then I'm going to come back, capture the oyster, just follow that right along out to the end. Leg and thigh. Same thing on the other side. Capture the oyster. Hold the carcass down with my knife, break the joint right through. Now I have chicken wings. I have my carcass, 2 leg and thighs. If I want to break these in 2, I go right through the joint there. Drumstick, chicken thigh, drumstick, chicken thigh. So, say I want a boneless thigh. Very simple, just take the tip of my knife, go down both sides of the bone until I can get my fingers underneath the bone. Then I just follow the edge of the bone. Bone stays with bones. Boneless chicken thigh. Boneless, skinless chicken thigh. Just one more step. So now I have boneless, skinless thigh, bone-in thigh, 2 drumsticks, breast boneless and skinless, and boneless skin on. So I'm going to also reserve this carcass because now I can take that. Once I have 2 or 3 of those, cook those down with some aromatic vegetables and some water, can make my own chicken stock, my own chicken broth, and have that on hand as well. So you can see how easy that is. I'm going to use the drumsticks and the thighs from this last preparation in a moment. Place those over here. First, we're going to talk about dry rubs. So I have a generic poultry dry rub that I use pretty much across the board with all poultry, and it consists of a bunch of different colorful and very aromatic spices. So let's talk about those. So I have cayenne pepper here, I have sage here, garlic powder here, coriander here, black pepper, paprika, oregano, cumin, and brown sugar here. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble this now. So I'm going to start with my cayenne. I'm going to move on to my sage. Garlic powder next. Paprika. Black pepper. Coriander. Oregano. Cumin. Brown sugar. And of course, no dry rub would be complete without salt. Fair amount of salt. So I'm going to mix up this dry rub really good. So notice I'm going to shake the bowl and stir at the same time. This pushes stuff up the sides, and as it falls back down into the middle, it mixes and also kind of breaks up any of the lumps that might exist in the spice mix. So once I don't see any streaks of color in here, because we have so many variable colors going into this, that tells me that I'm pretty well mixed. Actually, did see one little streak of something down there in the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to take this spice rub and I'm going to place some of it in a Ziploc baggie. A fair amount, don't be shy. Then I'm going to take my chicken thigh and legs and I'm going to slash right across the middle of them, right down to the bone. What that's going to do is it's going to allow that heat to penetrate down to the bone and for these to cook much more quickly than they would otherwise. It's also going to allow the dry rub to get into the flesh of the chicken as opposed to just being on the outside, and it's going to draw the flavors and the salting capabilities into the meat. And then I just close this guy up. Sort of like shake and bake, but it's shake and rub. So we're just going to make sure these guys are all evenly coated. And then you really want these things to hang out in here for a while. So we're going to refrigerate this for about at least 4 hours, up to about 12. And then I just happen to have one that has been marinated here. So we're going to take these guys out and we're going to place them on the grill. Nice hot spot on the grill there. So we're going to cook these on the grill. We're going to get some markings on the outside, some nice caramelization. And then as they get near being totally cooked, we're going to put sauce on them. So we're going to use a nice barbecue sauce. It's a sugar, molasses, hickory flavored barbecue. But that sugar wants to burn on the chicken. And so we're going to wait till the end. If we start putting sauce on this now, that sauce is going to burn before the inside of the chicken is cooked. So we're going to start cooking these without the sauce. And then at the end, we'll finish with the sauce. I got a little flame up going there. So I'm just going to move that away from the fire. We don't want those volatile chemicals from the flames or that black soot to appear on here. It's both unhealthy and uncharacteristically unpleasant flavor. So we'll come back to those in about 6 to 7 minutes and start the glazing process. So these chicken thighs have been cooking for about 7 minutes now, and at this point they're almost fully cooked. So I'm going to take some of my sauce, like I said, heavily laden with sugar that wants to burn, and I'm going to start glazing these chicken thighs. So I'm going to put a generous amount of the sauce on, and I'm going to keep these moving pretty regularly. Once they get this sauce on them, if they stay in one place for any length of time, that sauce is going to burn. If I keep it moving regularly, that sauce is going to caramelize and form a nice little crust on the outside. So I don't mind a little bit of charring on this. A little charring's good. A lot of charring starts to get bitter and kind of unpleasant. So a lot of sauce, a lot of movement at this point. And literally just keep going, saucing and flip, saucing and flip. This each time you get a little bit of crust and caramelization with the sauce. Some of it falls off onto the grill, which is fine. But what stays on builds a base for the next layer. So I'd probably do this for about 2 to 3 minutes. So these are done now. Got a beautiful crust on them. I'm going to plate these up just by themselves. Simple barbecue chicken Got a little watercress garnish here for some greenery. And so here we have our classic American barbecued chicken. And now we're going to look at a dish that's a bit of a mixed grill, if you will, utilizing quail as one of the proteins. But before we get to quail, I've got a few things that I need to get on the grill first. So I have some Italian sausage here that I'm going to place, cut these in half, and I'm going to place them on the flat side down so I can get some nice grill marks on them evenly. And as I place these down, I've brushed them with a little bit of oil, and I'm just pressing them down so I get nice, even grill marks. Here I have some polenta. Polenta is a coarse grain cornmeal that's frequently cooked with water or stock to sort of hydrate the grains, enliven them again. Once they're cooked, it can be served as a soft polenta like a porridge or a pudding, or it can be served as a firm polenta like we have here. So the ratio for a firm polenta is about 4 parts of liquid to 1 part of polenta, and that's what we've done here. So we cooked this off prior to grilling, formed it in a pan, and now we are going to grill it and get some nice grill marks on it. So you can see my Italian sausage is rendering some fat there and dropping the fat into the fire, causing some flame up. So I'm going to just move these. I've got some pretty high heat going there, so I can pull these back a little bit. I've already got my first grill mark established there. Also, a lot of times if I have a lot of things going on the grill that are sort of fatty and greasy, spreading them out over a larger area. If you concentrate where all that stuff is, all the fat, all the grease is falling in the same area, and that's going to cause that flare up for you. So with the polenta, I want to make sure we don't try to move it too soon because that's what causes it to tear the crust there on the bottom. So now let's get to the marinade. So here we have our quail. These are semi-boneless quail, so the bones still exist in the wings and in the legs, but all the breastbone and the body's been removed. So these are really great, delicate. They cook very quickly, and they've got a nice, distinct little gamey bird flavor to them. So we have the ingredients for our marinade here. So we're going to start off with some crushed garlic, cloves. Put those in. Some fresh bay leaves here. Some fresh thyme sprigs, fresh lemon juice, some extra virgin olive oil, and some sage leaves and stems. So all of that goes into the bag. I'm going to add a generous amount of salt to that, a little bit of pepper, being mindful of my activity on the grill over here all the time as well, so I'm making sure that I'm not letting anything get away from me over there. I'm going to place these in the marinade, and then these should marinate for about 1 hour to 2 hours. That marination time is going to vary depending on the size of the item. These guys are pretty small, so they're going to marinate fairly quickly. So I'm going to just zip lock this up, sort of roll these guys around in that marinade, get all those flavors sort of melding together, cohabitating, and I'm going to put this into the refrigerator for a couple of hours. Here I have a few specimens that have been pre-marinated. Just going to check on the progress of our grill here. Yeah, so those guys are looking good. So I've got a much lower heat going over here on the left side than I do on the right, so that would be an example of zone grilling. So I'm going to bring these over here to my warm zone because those are almost completely cooked now. I needed that high heat for searing to get that color and flavor development. Same thing with the polenta. Once I form my grill marks, just going to press gently down on those now that I've formed a crust, ensuring that I get nice, even grill marks on those as well. So while we're finishing up there, let's get the quail on the grill. Want to lay these quail out so that the breast goes down first. We always want our presentation side to go down first with these guys, and that's where I'm going to get the nicest, flattest surface, the best looking grill marks. pat these dry lightly with a paper towel, get the excess moisture off the surface. And these will go right to the hot spot on the grill. So now that I have my quail on, let's talk about a condiment. So I've got a classic sauce here. This sauce is seen frequently in both Spain and Italy. It's a salsa verde, so it's a green sauce basically. And it utilizes a number of very flavorful ingredients and lots of fresh herbs. So starting off, we have some minced garlic, fresh chopped capers. We have the pickling liquid that the capers are stored in, so a caper vinegar, so to speak. Some fresh chopped white anchovies, some red pepper flakes, and some fresh lemon juice. And then here we have a mixture of cilantro and fresh chopped parsley. I'm just gonna flip over my polenta cakes. See nice golden brown grill marks on there. Check on the quail status. I'm getting some nice grill marks on that already as well. So we're gonna cross those over, as I've mentioned before, that crossing. Nice grill marks and also just development of flavor and more even cooking. So back to our salsa verde. I'm gonna add my garlic. Capers chopped. Caper vinegar. Anchovies. A little bit of red pepper flake, fresh lemon juice, and our chopped herbs. Add to that some fresh ground black pepper and a decent amount of salt. It's a little bit dry for me. I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil to this. Just stir that in. That looks better. Okay, let's check back on our grill now. Sausage is cooked and looking nice. Polenta looks great. And our quail are ready to turn. So once we've turned those over, probably 2 to 3 minutes of additional cooking time, and then we're ready to plate up. Okay, I can see now by the plumpness of my quail that they're cooked. The breasts kind of plump up on them nicely. They look great. So I'm going to go ahead and plate up now. I'm going to start off with my polenta. There, and there. Next, I'll place the sausage. And then we'll come back with our quail. Get a little height there, utilizing the legs to draw our eye to the plate. And then a generous sort of random smattering of salsa verde. Make sure we see some on the plate, a little on the polenta for color contrast, some actually on the quail. And there we have our beautiful marinated grilled quail with Italian sausage, grilled polenta, and salsa verde. And next, we're going to take a non-traditional look at a holiday classic. Everybody's familiar with the holiday turkey. We have a beautiful specimen right here. So this is a nice hen turkey. I'm going to take this through a series of steps with you all, starting off with the preparation of it. So I have some ingredients here. I'm going to talk about each one as we go through. Turkeys traditionally are roasted in the oven. And as we roast them in the oven, they're surrounded by a skin that has a lot of fat in it, and that fat renders down. It turns into liquid fat, and it bastes the bird. Actually, that fat liquefies and goes into the meat. And a lot of that, typically in the roasting process, ends up in the bottom of the roasting pan, which we then turn back into gravy to remedy the fact that we've just overcooked our turkey and made it dry. So we're going to look at a couple of steps to sort of minimize that transformation of extracting the juices and then having to put them back over the top of the turkey. So I have some herbs here. And what I'm going to do with the herbs is I'm going to stuff those into the cavity, but first I'm going to put some salt in there. Salt is going to act as a little flavor enhancer. And I just kind of pick up the bird and sort of sprinkle salt all around the inside of the cavity so it sort of coats the whole inside. And then I have some parsley stems, which I'm going to force in here. I have some thyme and some sage. Put the thyme in first. Just kind of move that around. And then we'll finish up with the sage. All of these just adding sort of different herbal characteristics to the inside of our bird. I'm going to put a couple of cloves of garlic in here. And then I have some lemons here. I'm going to cut these guys in half and put the lemon halves inside, probably just one lemon. That acid's going to sort of liven up the herbs in there, give us a little bit of a citrus characteristic in the flavor. So all that's going to be hanging out inside there and steaming and mixing with the juices inside and helping to flavor that bird from the inside out. So now let's talk about the outside. Again, what we're trying to achieve is really crispy skin, nice golden brown exterior. So I'm going to actually give this a little boost. In addition to the fat content in the turkey skin itself, I'm going to take some pats of cold butter and I'm going to work those underneath the skin here. And that additional fat in the form of butter is just going to really bump up the moisture content of this turkey and really give us some nice results. And notice how I'm going to stay up high on the bird with this butter because gravity's going to kind of do its thing, draw that fat down into the remaining parts of the bird. So I don't need to worry too much about doing anything in the lower part of the bird because this'll end up there anyway. Just kind of massaging this over. I don't want to tear the skin. Do a couple more up here in the front. Break through that membrane there. And just one more. So I think we have adequately pump some additional fat into here. Next step is I'm going to take a dry rub. We're going to put a dry rub on the outside of this. And what that's going to do is a couple things. It's going to give us a seasoning on the outside. It's also going to salt the outside, which is going to help to dry out that skin and start to help us form that crust. It's going to give us that beautiful crispy skin. And it actually also acts as an antibacterial step. So the spices and the salt kill any bacteria that may exist on the surface area of the bird itself while it's cooking for an extended period of time. So let's get this dry rub on here. And I'm just going to sprinkle some on and I'm just sort of massage it into the bird. I want to make sure I have it all over the bird. Make sure I get in the crevices. Now the other option, as opposed to dry rubs, which a lot of people do with poultry, is brining. And brining is a great tool too. Brining is basically taking a solution of salt water and seasonings and placing the turkey in that solution. And I'll just give you a quick science lesson on how that works. Brine utilizes salt through osmosis and the salt and the water move through semi-permeable membranes and create equilibrium. So the salt will equalize in the water in the bird as it has in the water that it was in prior to. So what you end up with is seasoned liquid inside your poultry. The other advantage is that seasoned poultry is going to now have a higher water content in it than it did before by about 10 to 15%. So you're going to end up with more juice in the bird than you would have if you'd have just cooked it traditionally. So dry rub is a slightly different process. We're going for a little bit different flavor profile on the outside, but brining is a perfectly legitimate method as well. So we're going to cook this in a Weber barbecue. So as you can see, I have a nice hot bed of coals here on each side of the Weber, and I've got a drip pan placed in the center underneath the grate. So I'm going to take the turkey, I'm going to place it right here in the center of the Weber. I'm going to sprinkle a few wet wood chips on each side on top of the hot coals, and as those become dry wood chips, they're going to generate smoke, which is going to create a great flavor in this turkey. So I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to check the temperature in a few minutes to make sure it's where I'm at, and I can use these air dampening tools on the top and the bottom to control that temperature, and then we'll check back on this bird in about an hour and a half. So you can see this has been in here for about an hour and a half now. So I have some apple juice here. The skin's starting to get some nice color on it from the heat and the smoke, so I'm just going to baste this with a little bit of the liquid. Soften that skin back up a little bit. It'll eventually get crispy again, but this will keep it from burning. I'll actually dab in here in the cavity, grab a little bit of the juices from the herbs, use that as well. Get nice lemon, herb, apple, garlic, sort of elixir going here. And then I'm going to add just a few more wood chips here. I want to get a little bit more smoke flavor. So these wood chips are wet, the idea being that they'll generate a little bit of steam, and also when they dry out create smoke. The steam just allows the smoke volatile compounds to permeate. Without that moisture, that wouldn't happen. So who wouldn't be happy with this for their Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner? This is a beautifully cooked turkey, so you can see crisp skin on the outside, and as the skin crisps and renders that fat down, it becomes really thin, and you end up with little brittle pieces like this that we call them cracklins. And they're delicious, little crunchy, salty bits. So I'm going to sort of demystify carving a turkey for you. I'm going to show you how to break this bird down in a matter of minutes. Keep it presentable, make it be attractive to your family, and really present nicely on a platter. So I'm going to get right to that. The first thing I do is make an incision at the legs through the skin, because I want to keep the skin that belongs on the leg, and I want to keep the skin that belongs on the breast. So at this point, most people start shaving the turkey down, not really fully understanding where the bones are. I prefer to take a slightly different approach. I like to get the bones out of my way. So I'm going to cut down right through the top of the breastplate. Right along here is a cartilage piece, and I'm following right along the edge of that cartilage piece, and then I'm going to come down to where the wishbone is, and I'm going to turn my knife and follow the contour of the wishbone. That's going to take me directly to this joint right here, where I can go right through that wing joint, and then I can literally just slice the breast right off of the carcass. And have everything out of my way. So you can see a little pink hue right here, which is exactly what I want to see. That tells me that the breast is still nice and moist. It's not going to be dry. At this point, I'll come back and I'll take off the leg, basically coming underneath. Right here is my favorite part of the turkey. This is called the oyster, and it's right at the base of the pelvic joint, and it's just a little piece of meat about the size of a $50 right there, and it's the most moist and tasty piece on the entire turkey. So I'm going to start with the leg. I'm going to break the thigh and the leg joint. I'm going to keep the drumstick intact. Just going to place that right here on my platter. And then I'm just going to quickly take the leg meat off, because usually most people are going after the breast. There's a few people that are looking for dark meat. So I'll just sort of break this up into smaller portions so that it's not 25% of the dark meat of the turkey all going to one person. Just kind of scrape all that excess meat off of the bone. Beautiful dark meat. Now, let's move on to the breast. I'm gonna get a little bit different knife here for slicing. And basically, I'm just gonna kind of hold the skin in place as I go through and try and keep the skin with the slices of breast. So without the bones being in my way, it's real easy to get nice, even, uniform slices on this without them coming apart, without banging into bones. And then again, utilizing my knife like a spatula, I can move all of that intact, and then reach over and fan this out a little bit. Just a little more decorative, take up a little bit more space on the platter. And then for accompaniments, I've just got a couple of little additional touches here. I've got this beautiful 3-grain salad. So we have farro in here, wild rice, and lentils. So really nice, fresh grain salad. Some beautiful cherry tomatoes in here, scallions. I'm just gonna use this as a bit of a garnish, a little grain accent. Also, you'll notice that I didn't stuff the turkey, and I want to talk about that real quickly while I'm plating this up. So stuffing the turkey, basically what you do is you fill the cavity of that bird. And so you dramatically increase the amount of time that it takes to cook that turkey through and have whatever's in the center be hot. And generally, by cooking it that length of time, you've completely obliterated the turkey in an effort to get the center ingredients hot. So I like to make the stuffing independent of the turkey. And also that cavity helps in what we talked about as far as resting goes. That cavity allows the turkey to cool off quite a bit more quickly than it would if it were a solid mass. So that resting period, the juices slow down, the water activity slows down, and we keep more of that moisture in the bird. So here we have our beautiful smoke roasted turkey, apricot chutney, 3-grain salad. Happy holidays.